Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So I want us to talk a little bit about the fighter of the year. Now, Terence Crawford just took to his Twitter to proclaim that he is the fighter of the year for 2023. Crawford states, "I'm the only fighter to be a top 5 pound for pound fighter this year, and the way that I beat him was unmatched. 2023 fighter of the year is me. Some might say I only fought one time, but that one fight was bigger than all of the others." Now, Crawford absolutely has a point here. People know that I've been critical of some of the things that Terence Crawford has said and done in the past, but there are occasions where I absolutely agree with Terence Crawford. And I would say, for the most part, I agree with what he's saying here, but I don't necessarily have him as 2023 Fighter of the Year. Now, we did a poll yesterday, and the 4 people that we put in that poll, I believe, are the only candidates for Fighter of the Year. Those 4 fighters were Terence Crawford, David Benavidez, Inoue, as well as Devin Haney. Now, Crawford's argument of the way that he did it and the fact that Errol Spence was a top 5 pound for pound fighter, I mean, that's a legitimate fact, man. I mean, you got to give him a lot of credit for that. And if you were making a strong argument for Terence Crawford to be the fighter of the year, this would be why. And I do believe that Terence Crawford, anybody that's making an argument, I think anybody that's making an argument for these 4 fighters, it's a legitimate argument, right? The reason why I would say Terence Crawford is not the fighter of the year is the one time that he fought this year. Now, he makes the argument that it was bigger than all other fights. I agree with that. I understand that. But the size of the fight really doesn't matter in terms of who's the fighter of the year. If that's the case, Gervonta Tank Davis is the fighter of the year because he won the biggest fight of the year in terms of the size. And I don't think anybody will come into the comment section and agree that Gervonta Tank Davis is fighter of the year. So that really doesn't matter to me. Inoue became undisputed just this week. Big wins over Stephen Fulton and Topalis. So you got to give him a lot of credit for the things that he's doing. However, that weight class, I just feel like the general fan does not necessarily understand how good those fighters are, including myself, how good those fighters truly are. And so that may impact him to some extent. Devin Haney had a big year as well. Devin beat Lomachenko, also beat Rigondeaux. It's not Rigondeaux, Regis Prograis, sorry. Beat Regis Prograis and beat Regis Prograis in dominant fashion, similar to what we saw out of Terence Crawford. So he gets a lot of love and respect in that regards as well. And then you had David Benavidez, who beat both Caleb Plant as well as Demetrius Andrade. So all of these gentlemen are deserving. Now, one caveat I want to put into this, and I know people are going to get pissed off by this, but Terence Crawford fans, if you're running into the comment section and you're saying unequivocally that Terence Crawford is the fighter of the year, and you also said at some point or time that Errol Spence was not that good, Terence Crawford was always going to wash him, any of those types of statements, because I've seen and heard a lot of those statements made that Errol wasn't that good and Errol was this and Errol is basic and Errol is da 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 da. If you've made any comments in regards to that, I would tell you that whatever you're saying, if you're coming in here to argue that Terence Crawford is the fighter of the year, your opinion is completely disqualified because you're saying whoever he beat was never that good to begin with. See, that's the reason why you don't diminish a fighter after your fighter wins. You don't diminish it because in these instances, you make your fighter look bad. Your fighter doesn't look like he should be the 2023 fighter of the year because you're saying that the competition was trash. That's what you're basically saying. So that's the reason why you don't come and shit on the opponent. Now, I don't feel that way. I think Terence Crawford gets full credit for the fight and the performance that he put on. But still, that's the reason why you don't make those comments. Now, I think all of these gentlemen have a legitimate argument in terms of who's the fighter of the year. Personally, I'm going to give it to David Benavidez. I think David Benavidez is the fighter of the year. And the reason why I think David Benavidez is the fighter of the year is because what he put on the line, the risk that he took. Like, he's in line for a big payday versus Canelo Alvarez. He went and fought Caleb Plant, which Caleb Plant is an excellent fighter at 168 pounds. And then he fought one of the boogeymans, the other boogeyman, in the 168-pound division, which was Demetrius Andrade, and he washed him. He absolutely washed him. We heard a lot of pundits like Tim Bradley saying that David Benavidez didn't have the level of footwork required in order to beat somebody like Boo Boo Andrade, and we're going to see something similar to the fight between Crawford and Errol Spence, and he got washed. Absolutely washed. So in my personal opinion, David Benavidez is absolutely the fighter of the year. Now, can you make an argument for the other guys? Absolutely. You're not going to get me into the comment section and get me arguing against any of these four guys, because Terence Crawford was dominant in his win over a top 5 pound for pound fighter. And I still believe that that's what Spence was. Inoue became undisputed this year in his fight with Tapales. And then, he cooked Stephen Fulton. I mean, you gotta give him just due. We all thought Stephen Fulton was going to be a lot more competitive in that fight than he actually was, and he got washed. Devin Haney, I love what Devin Haney is doing in terms of the way that he's moving. Beat Lomachenko, beat Prograis. And he moved up in weight to do it. So Devin, I would say over the last 12, 18 months, Devin's been pretty on fire in terms of becoming undisputed and then moving up and claiming his second title in as many weight classes. So, I mean, any of these guys could be fighter of the year, but I'm going to go with David Benavidez. I think he's the guy. So if you guys think differently, I would love to hear your feedback. I know we just recently put out a poll, and let me see how that poll's performing. Because last time I didn't check till yesterday. I'm sorry, guys. I've been quite under the weather here recently. Trying to recover from that, but let me see the poll that we put out yesterday. We show that the majority of people felt that, let's see here, 53% give it to Terence Crawford, 6,400 votes. And I mean, I can't argue. Like I said, I can't argue. Excuse me. I can't argue any of those fighters. If you feel that it's Terence Crawford, I'm not going to argue. I think there's things that you can take away from Crawford. I think you can take away from all of these fighters. If you want to, Crawford only fought one time a year. Lomachenko was old. You got to question the competition of Inoue. David Benavidez, Plant, how you got to question that level of competition. They're not top, they're not top of the food chain level fighters. You know what I mean? You can take away from each one of these fighters, or you can make an argument against each one of these fighters as well. So that's the reason why I'm not going to argue against anybody if they have a different 2023 fighter of the year. One thing I will not argue is Terence Crawford is the top pound for pound fighter in the world. I've seen some stuff out there talking about Inoue as being the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world. I disagree. Terence Crawford is the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world, and he will remain such probably until he gets beat. So you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, L Sports Media, and I am out.